Welcome to a captivating journey through history, culture, and breathtaking experiences in one of the world's oldest cities. Get ready as we explore the top 10 things to do in Athens, Greece. From ancient wonders to modern marvels, Athens has it all. Number 10. Temple of Olympian Zeus. Now, not much of this temple east of the Acropolis has been left standing, but what remains is more than enough to tell you that it used to be vast. The Temple of Olympian Zeus had an extremely long construction period, started in the 6th century BC but not completed until the rule of Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD. In that time the prevalent order had switched to Corinthian, and the 15 surviving columns of an original 104 have scrolls and acanthus patterns. The temple was pulled down during the Herulaean sack of Athens in 267, little more than a century after it was completed, and its stone was quarried for other buildings around the city. Number 9. Plaka. An antidote to both the silent ancient temples and traffic-heavy modern city, Plaka lies on top of ancient Athens's residential quarters in the shadow of the Acropolis. It's a district of tight, twisting alleys with 19th-century facades garlanded with flowering bougainvillea in summer. Plaka is jam-packed with family-run shops, each with something alluring, from ceramics, musical instruments, handmade jewelry to specialty food shops stacked high with olives and spices. And whether you want to pick up a gyro or sit down to a mise Plaka is a go-to for dining and nightlife. Number 8. Temple of Athena Nike. In a commanding position, raised on a bastion on the southeast slope of the Acropolis, the Temple of Athena Nike is from 420 BC and was the first complete Ionic order temple on the hill. It's the most recent of a number of temples dedicated to Athena Nike at the Acropolis, the previous of which was destroyed by the Persians in 480 BC. Conceived by Callicrates, this edifice is a tetra-style Ionic temple with 4 elegantly narrow columns on its front and rear porticos that have the hallmark Ionic volutes or scrolls. Fragments of the frieze and relief around the parapet below are on display at the Acropolis Museum, including the sublime wet drapery sculpture of the goddess fixing her sandal. Number 7. Museum of Cycladic Art. Beginning in the 1960s, the couple Nicholas and Dolly Goulandris amassed the world's largest collection of prehistoric art from the Cycladic Islands in the Aegean. By the 1980s this was enough to fill a museum, which opened in 1986. There are more than 3,000 pieces of Cycladic, ancient Greek and Cypriot art at the museum, dating from 3000 to the 4th century BC. But it's the Cycladic marble figurines that draw the most acclaim. If you love modern art, you may notice uncanny similarities between their minimal, abstract lines and works by the likes of Giacometti and Henry Moore. Number 6. Temple of Hephaestus. Atop the 65-meter Agireos Kolonos hill on the northwest side of the Agora of Athens, the Temple of Hephaestus is a Doric peripteral temple in an amazing state of preservation. It was built in the second half of the 5th century BC and construction was delayed for 3 decades because funds and labor were redirected towards the Parthenon. Designed by Ictinus, the temple was dedicated to Athena and Hephaestus, who was the ancient god of fire, metalworking, forges, sculpture and stonemasonry, and has 6 fluted columns on its west side and 13 on its north and south. Number 5. National Archaeological Museum. A veritable wonderland of ancient art, it's fitting that Athens' National Archaeological Museum should be one of the largest and richest in the world. The galleries are jammed with star exhibits that have been beguiling scholars for generations. Take the finds. From the Atticathera wreck, identified in 1900 and dating back to the 4th century BC. This yielded the Atticathera mechanism, the world's oldest analog computer and the contemplative philosopher's head. Then there's the Mask of Agamemnon, a gold funerary mask from the 16th century BC, most likely made for Mycenaean royalty, though too early for Agamemnon. Number 4. Erechtheion. On the north side of the Acropolis is a temple to Athena and Poseidon, built in the Ionic order from 421 to 406 BC. After antiquity, this monument had all sorts of uses, as a Byzantine church, a palace in the Frankish period, and much later a residence for the Ottoman commander's harem. The thing you have to see, and the Erechtheion's defining image, is the southern porch of the Maidens. This has 6 magnificent caryatids supporting its roof, carved by Callimachus or Alcamons. The current caryatids are casts, and 5 of the originals are now in the Acropolis Museum and a 6th is at the British Museum. Number 3. Acropolis Museum. The work of Swiss architect Bernard Tschumi, the Acropolis Museum is on the southeast slope and was unveiled in 2009 to present the many thousands of artifacts discovered on the archaeological site of the Acropolis. Smartly oriented to give you constant views of the Parthenon, the museum is built over ancient ruins and much of the ground floor has glass panels and open spaces, showing the foundations below. On 3 levels, visitors are sent on a chronological trip through the centuries, starting with the hill's archaic discoveries in a large trapezoidal hull that also has findings from the Erechtheion, the Propylaea Gateway and the Temple of Athena Nike. Number 2. Parthenon. Seen as the greatest achievement of the Doric order and classical Greece's most significant building to make it to the 21st century, the Parthenon is a symbol of Western civilization and Athenian democracy. The Parthenon was dedicated to the goddess Athena and begun in 447 BC, when the Athenian Empire was the dominant force in the Aegean. Co-designed by Ictinus and Callicrates, at that time it was a city treasury before becoming a church in the 6th century and then a mosque in the 1460s. Notoriously, some of the Parthenon sculptures were plundered by the Earl of Elgin at the start of the 18th century and were later sold to the British Museum where they remain. Number 1. Acropolis. There's nothing we can tell you that hasn't been said many times about Athens' ancient citadel. The Acropolis is on an abrupt rocky outcrop above the city and has world-renowned classical landmarks that people spend whole lifetimes waiting to see in the flesh. The pinnacle of these is of course the Parthenon, but the Propylaea, the Erechtheion and the Temple of Athena Nike are indispensable, and you can skip the queues and get enthralling inside facts and tidbits about ancient Greek democracy and philosophy with a registered guide. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to explore more extraordinary destinations with us.